So this is going to be the review for your test because I know it's been a couple weeks since we've done some of these concepts. So each question on this review is just like the question on the test. So this is what number 1 on your test is going to look like. I just changed the numbers around. So it would be a good idea if you take notes while I'm doing this so that when you get to your test, you know how to do it. Okay, so let's start with number 1. We want the equation of a line that goes through that ordered pair and has that slope. So for number 1 here and number 1 on your test, this is where we want to start. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And if you remember, we label our ordered pairs x1 and y1. And then remember, slope is your m. So let's plug stuff in. Y minus y1 I labeled as -1. M is -2. X minus x1 is 3. Remember, if you ever have minus negative right here, we change that to plus. So this is going to turn to +1. Next step is to distribute. So I'm going to bring down y plus 1. -2 times x is -2x. -2 times a -3 is a +6. Now I want to move my 1. The opposite of +1 is -1. Remember, you always move it to the end. So y equals -2x. And 6 minus 1 is 5. So the answer for this one would be B, the second one. Okay, now that does not mean that the answer to number 1 is B on your test. I actually have no idea what the answer to number 1 on your test is, but that's how you do it. Start with y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 and plug in what you know. Right, number 2, it looks like this. It's a line and I say, what's the equation? So let me get you started. The easiest way, I think, look at your y-intercept first. Remember, this is your y-axis. Where does it cross your y-axis? It crosses at 3. That means it has to end in a +3, okay? Which means it can't be B because B ends in a -3. And it means it can't be C because C ends in a -3. Okay? From here, remember to figure out your slope, you do rise over run. So I'm going to go from this dot to this dot. I'm going to go down. Let me do a different color. I'm going to go down 1, 2, and if you go down, that means it's a negative. And I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3. And then remember, we have to type that in our calculator. So let me pull this up. And we're going to type in -2 divided by 3. Remember, we want to turn it to a fraction, so I'm going to hit math, enter, enter, and my slope is -2/3. -2/3 x. So my answer is D. So that's how you'll do number 2 on your test. Number 3, slope is your m. Here's your x1 and your y1. Remember that if the 0 comes first, that means that is your y-intercept. So this one's actually really easy. Your slope is 1/3 x. Your y-intercept is -5/6. And that's your answer. So it should be A on this one. Okay? So remember, if x comes first, that means that's your y-intercept. And that's the number that goes at the end of your equation. Also, if that didn't make any sense, you could always go back to the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 and plug in 1/3 for m. Your x1 was 0. Your y1 was -5/6. And again, this minus negative would change to a plus. And you'd solve it out. And we would get the same answer, this 1/3 x minus 5/6. Okay, next up, I give you a table and I want to know the equation. So you need to pick 2 ordered pairs. I'm going to pick the first one. I'm going to pick 20 and 60. And I'm going to pick 40 and 65. And remember, you have x1, y1, x2, y2. First step is to find the slope. And I would definitely write this down. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's plug in y2 right here, 65, minus y1 is 60. On bottom, x2 is 40, x1 is 20. Then we subtract. 65 minus 5 is 5. 40 minus 20 is 20. Last step, we're going to divide those. 5 divided by 20. Change it to a fraction, hit math, enter, enter. So your slope is 1/4. Okay, from here, well actually I'm done, because look at my answers. My slope here is 4, that's not right. My slope here is -4, that's not right. My slope here is 1/4. My slope here is -1/4. So the only one that is correct is C. If you wanted to keep going, we would go back to this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And you'd plug everything in and solve it out. Okay, this one wants us to get y by itself. So I'm going to start by moving my 15. The opposite of minus 15 is plus 15. I'm going to do it to both sides. So I have 20x minus 5y equals 0 plus 15 is 15. Now I'm going to move my 20 by subtracting it. The opposite of a positive is a negative. Remember, when we're writing these, we always like our x to come first. So over here I'm going to put negative 20x, and it's a positive 15. Now to move this -5, they're multiplying. The opposite of multiplying is divide. So I'm going to divide everything by -5. So final answer, y equals 4x. 15 divided by -5 is -3. So it would be A on this one. So for number 5, you're just getting y by itself. Okay. We just went through this. Y-intercept is where the first number is 0. So I want to look here. I'm going to find 0 right here. That means my y-intercept is at 240. 0 to 40 is your y-intercept. Number 7, we want an x-intercept of -2 and a y-intercept of 7. Well, remember, y-intercept is your last number, so it has to end in a positive 7. So I know it's not this one or this one. We're going to make these ordered pairs. X-intercept, the number comes first and the 0 comes second. Y-intercept, the 0 comes first and the number comes second. And we're going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and we need to find the slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is 7, y1 is 0, x2 is 0, x1 is -2. 7 minus 0 is 7, 0 minus -2 is 2. So my slope is 7 over 2. So it's got to be C. All right, what's the slope? Again, we want to do rise over run. I'm going to pick this point, and I'm going to pick this point. So we're going to go down 1, 2. So in your calculator, you would type in -2 divided by, I'm going over 1. So I'm going to divide by 1. And your slope is -2. So for number 8, do rise over run. Okay, this one, again, we've got to get y by itself. So let's do it. I'm going to start by moving my 9. So I'm going to do -9. So 4x plus 9y, I'm just bringing that down. 0 minus 9 is -9. Now I'm going to move my 4x by subtracting it. So 9y equals, it's a -4x, that comes first, and it's a -9. And then last step, we're going to divide everything by this 9. So negative 4 divided by 9 is negative 4/9. And negative 9 divided by 9 is negative 1. So we want to know, what is the slope? Well, remember, slope is always the number with the x. So your slope is negative 4/9. It would be B. All right, during which time interval did the cost increase the greatest average rate? All right, here's how we do this. We want to find the difference in years. So from 1998 to 1971, let's subtract those. 1971 minus 1898, it went up 73 years. So I'm going to put 73. We're going to do it again. From 71 to 85, so 1985 minus 1971, it went up 14 years. From 2006, and we went from 1985, it went up 21 years. And last, 2006 to 2012 is 6 years. I'm going to do the same thing down on my y's. 1 to 6, we went up by 5. 6 to 14, we went up by 8. 14 to 24, we went up by 10. 24 to 35, we went up by 11. So here's how I'm going to figure out the greatest rate. I'm going to divide. I'm going to do my y's divided by my x's. So here I'm going to do 5 divided by 73. Here I'm going to do 8 divided by 14. See, I'm taking this number and dividing by the one on top. So here I'm going to do 10 over 21. Here I'm going to do 11 over 6. 5 over 73 is 0.06. 8 over 14 is 0.57. 10 over 21 is 0.47. 11 over 6 is 1.8. So out of those four numbers, which one is the biggest? 0.06, 0.57, 0.47, or 1.8? 1.8 is the biggest. So the biggest rate of change was between 2006 and 2012. All right, here says, what does the y-intercept represent? Well, remember, to find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to use Desmos, and I would use Desmos on your test. So let me pull up Desmos. What is it? 25x plus 5y. 25x plus 5y equals 60. So I'm going to zoom out so I can see my y-intercept is at 12. 12 is my y-intercept. If it had asked for the x, it would have been 2.4. But 12 is my y-intercept. And there's only one number that has 12. Right here. You need 12 nickels and no quarters to park for 60 minutes. Same thing here. I would use Desmos. So let's type it in. Negative 3x plus, minus 5y equals 15. And my x-intercept is at negative 5, 0. If it had asked for y, it would have been at 0, negative 3. But negative 5 is my y-intercept. So, and you got to make sure you write it in the right order. Negative 5, 0. Which table is linear? Okay, linear means all your x's go up by the same and all your y's go up by the same. So, here we go up by 3. Here we go up by 3. Here we go up by 3. So far, so good. 40 to 32, we go down by 8. 32 to 24, we go down by 8. 24 to 16, we go down by 8. So yes, this one is linear. 1 to 3, we go up by 2. We go up by 2. We go up by 2. So far, so good. 2 to 11, we go up by 9. 11 to 33, we go up by 22. So I can already stop because it's not the same. 1 to 2, we go up by 1. 2 to 3, we go up by 1. 3 to 4, we go up by 1. So far, so good. 1 to 2, we go up by 1. 2 to 6, we go up by 4. I already know they're not the same. So the one that's linear was A. Okay, to start this one, we're going to need to find the slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. In ordered pairs, we label x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's plug it in. y2 is 8, y1 is 2, x2 is negative 6, x1 is negative 3. So on top I get 6, on bottom I get negative 3. Divide them and you get negative 2. So let's look here. Which one has a slope of negative 2? Not A. B does, not C, and not D. So B is your answer. Okay, here we go. This one has a lot of parts to it, but again, it's pretty easy. I think you're going to do fine. A wants to know the slope. So we're going to make 2 ordered pairs. I'm going to make 0, 40 an ordered pair and 2, 30. I'm going to label my ordered pairs x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to find the slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I get negative 10 on top, and I get 2 on bottom. So my slope is negative 5. So when I'm writing my equation, it's going to be y equals negative 5x. Remember, your y-intercept is where x is 0. So right here is my y-intercept, and it is at a positive 40. Okay, what does the slope... Oh, wait, I didn't want the equation. All I wanted was the slope. I went too far. So my slope is negative 5. What does it mean in terms of the problem? Well, I'm going to change it to a fraction. We've gone through this before. My y's are on top and my x's are on bottom. So y means inches and x means hours. So I want to find some kind of sentence that says she's losing, or the water, it's losing 5 inches every 1 hour. So let's read. In 5 hours, the water level was 40 inches high. No. After 5 hours, no, I want 5 inches. Each hour, the water level falls 5 inches. There we go. That's the one that works. Okay, continuous or discrete. Remember, discrete cannot have decimals. Continuous can. So we're talking about water level. Could the water level be a decimal inch? Yeah, it could. So that means it has to be continuous. Continuous can have decimals. So another thing you need to know, if it's continuous, and I would write these notes in your notebook. Continuous, you're going to write your domain and range like this with the inequalities. If it's discrete, you're going to write your domain and range where you list out all the numbers. So since we just said it was continuous, we're going to use the one with the inequalities. So it can't be A or B. Domain is x. So I'm going to look at my x's up here on top, and it goes from 0 to 8. So C is going to be my domain. Range is y. So when we look at my y's go up to 40. And again, we want to list out the inequalities, so it's going to be D. The equation we already did, it was negative 5x. That was my slope. And then remember, where x is y, where x is 0, that's my y-intercept, so it's going to end in a positive 40. What does the x-intercept, what is it and what does it mean? Well, the x-intercept is where the first is a number and the second one is the 0. So right here, this is my x-intercept. It's at 8. And let's go straight across to see what does it mean. It means hours. So I want to find 8 hours. After 8 hours, there was no more water. The y-intercept is where x is 0, so it's 40, and it's got to be 40 inches. So the water level started 40 inches high. And that's it. So go try your test, and no help because I just went through every problem. So if you get stuck, come back and watch the video. Okay? Thanks.